You know that feeling when you've got a picture in your head of who you want to be? Maybe the things you want to achieve, but the steps to actually get there feel a bit hazy.
Oh, totally. Like a great idea that just sort of fades when you try to grab onto it. Such a human thing, isn't it?
It really is. We all have that future self we're aiming for, that aspiration.
And that drive,
Yeah.
to think about tomorrow, to imagine what could be, it's incredibly powerful. The real trick is turning that vague image into something more solid.
How do we actually bridge that gap between who we are right now and the person we hope to become?
Well, that's exactly what we're digging into in this deep dive. We're exploring a practice called future self-journaling.
Future self journaling. Okay.
Think of it as a focused way to connect with that future version of you, to make that aspiration less of a dream and maybe more of a blueprint.
So, our mission today is really to understand what this is, how it works its magic, the benefits, which seem pretty wide ranging, and importantly, how you, listening, can actually start using this tool.
Right. Without it feeling like just another overwhelming thing on the to-do list.
Exactly. And we looked at quite a few different sources, right?
We did. We've got practical guides explaining the steps, psychological perspectives looking at why it works, and even some really personal stories, people writing letters to their future selves and reflecting on that.
So, different angles on the same core idea. Okay, let's dive right in. What, in its simplest form, is future self-journaling?
Well, essentially, it's writing about the future directed to your future self. Simple as that.
So, different from regular journaling where you might just write about your day or, things that happened in the past.
Exactly. That usually looks backward or at the present. This flips the script. It focuses your thoughts, your feelings, your hopes forward, like you're actually having a conversation with the person you'll become.
It strikes me this isn't entirely brand new, though. I mean, haven't most of us, jotted down goals at some point? Or written a note about what we hope happens?
Oh, absolutely. That human thing, contemplating what's next, it's fundamental. Future self-journaling just gives it more structure, a more deliberate way to harness those thoughts.
So it's like a more intentional version of making that life goals list or writing an open letter to the future.
Precisely. You might have even done a sort of informal version without calling it that, putting intentions down on paper, but maybe less directly to that future you.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does it actually work then? What are the nuts and bolts?
The mechanics are really simple. You can use, good old pen and paper, a dedicated journal, maybe a notebook.
Or digital tools too, I imagine.
Yep, a computer document, a notes app on your phone.
Yeah.
Some people even record audio or video messages for their future selves. The key thing is the act of creating it, the intention behind it.
And our sources mentioned there isn't just one single way to do this, right? It's flexible.
Very flexible. One common way is writing letters, like you mentioned, to be opened on specific dates. Birthdays, anniversaries, or maybe 5, 10, 15 years out.
That anticipation of reading it later must be powerful.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
Another way is scheduling emails to yourself for the future, a kind of digital time capsule.
Interesting.
And then there's the more systematic approach. Regular entries, maybe daily, maybe a few times a week, often using specific prompts to guide that future-focused thinking. We could talk more about prompts later.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for me. It's more than just writing words down, isn't it? There's some psychology going on here.
Oh, absolutely. It taps into some really compelling stuff. I mean, journaling in general has psychological benefits. It's not just an emotional outlet. But future self-journaling adds layers.
Like the neuroplasticity aspect.
Exactly. Neuroplasticity. The idea that consistently focusing on your desired future, the states, the behaviors through writing, can actually help strengthen the neural pathways linked to those things.
So you're kind of mentally rehearsing.
You got it. Mentally rehearsing the future you want, which makes it feel more achievable and reinforces those mental connections. You're essentially training your brain to align with your goals.
Wow. Okay, that's a powerful concept. So
Yeah.
training our brains, what are some of the concrete benefits someone might actually experience if they start doing this?
Well, the benefits are pretty varied, actually.
Mm-hmm.
First up, it's a great tool for goal tracking and achievement.
Right. Makes sense.
Writing to your future self about your goals keeps them top of mind. But it also pushes you to think about how to get there. Just stating the goal to your future self could be a really powerful first step. Makes it feel more real.
Yeah, that act of writing it down somehow solidifies it, takes it out of just being a fleeting thought.
Exactly. Second, it can genuinely help in shaping your life's trajectory.
How so? I mean, we can't predict the future exactly.
No, but the act of envisioning it, writing about the future you want, it can positively influence the choices you make now. It helps you be more proactive in creating that life, rather than just letting things happen.
Like setting a course for your ship, maybe? An internal compass?
That's a great way to put it, an internal compass. And that leads right into another benefit, more thoughtful decision-making.
Okay, tell me more about that.
When you build that connection, that respect for your future self, you're naturally more likely to make choices today that align with their well-being, with those long-term goals.
Ah, so you're less likely to go for, say, immediate gratification if it messes up the future plan.
Precisely. You start thinking, how will this choice impact that person I'm aiming to be?
Makes perfect sense.
Another interesting one is how it can help cultivate optimism.
Optimism.
Yeah, by writing about positive emotions and outcomes for your future self, you kind of practice feeling hopeful now. It trains your brain to focus on possibilities, nurturing a more positive outlook.
And it can ignite our passions too, right? This source has mentioned creating positive aspirations.
Absolutely. Identifying what really excites you. Writing about pursuing those things in the future that gives you a powerful, consistent motivator, something meaningful to aim for. It guides your actions today.
So beyond just tangible goals, it sounds like it really boosts self-development and personal growth overall.
That's a crucial aspect. The practice itself highlights the link between what you do now and what happens later. It strengthens self-awareness, sharpens your thinking, your intuition maybe, makes you more conscious of your own patterns.
We're consciously aware. I like that.
And, while we're focused on the future here, journaling in general is known as a tool for emotional regulation.
Right, processing feelings, dealing with the past.
Exactly. While this deep dive is future-focused, the act of writing itself can be a way to process emotions. With future self-journaling, though, you add that layer of emotional anticipation, cultivating hope for what's coming.
One benefit that really stood out to me was this idea of truly connecting with your future self, making that vision more vivid.
Yes, that's key. Taking time to vividly imagine and describe your future self in detail. It has a real effect on your present focus, your feelings now.
Makes that future person feel less like an abstract idea.
Exactly. More like a real, attainable person. It gives you a stronger sense of direction. It reminds me of Viktor Frankl's work, the importance of having a sense of purpose tied to the future, to find meaning in the present, even when things are tough.
Having that clear future vision gives today's actions more weight, more significance.
Precisely. It's not passive writing. It's actively shaping how you see yourself and what you think is possible. And finally, it can be a great catalyst for shifting perspective.
How does that work?
Well, by regularly looking at your current self compared to that envisioned future self, you can spot areas where change might be needed. It highlights any disconnects between where you are and where you want to be. That can be really motivating.
Okay, wow. So the benefits are clear. Goal setting, shaping life, better decisions, optimism, passion, personal growth, self-awareness, emotional connection to the future, shifting perspective. That's quite a list from just writing things down regularly.
It really is.
So for someone listening now thinking, okay, this sounds good, I want to try this, how do they actually get started? What are the practical first steps?
Getting started is actually simpler than it might sound. The basic requirements are minimal. You just need something to write with and on.
Like a journal, notebook, paper, pen,
Yep.
or digital stuff?
Yep, exactly. Journal, notebook, loose paper, pen, or your computer, phone, whatever digital tool you prefer. The main thing is just having a dedicated space for these reflections.
Some sources even suggested maybe starting a brand new journal or a specific digital file to make it feel distinct.
Yeah, that can definitely help create that sense of intention. And when you're first starting, it's often good to keep it light.
Lighter topics.
Yeah, don't feel like you have to dive into your deepest struggles right away. Make it enjoyable. Maybe write down something funny that happened or something memorable your future self might get a kick out of reading later.
Takes the pressure off a bit, makes it more approachable. But what about when you do want to tackle some of the harder stuff? Difficulties, mistakes, current struggles?
When you feel ready for that, it helps to maybe reflect a bit beforehand. Think about what advice you'd give your future self about it. Or maybe what advice that wiser future self would give you now.
Like a dialogue across time.
Kind of, yeah. And try to explain your feelings and why you're writing about that specific issue. Just articulating it clearly can be really insightful in itself.
And it's important to remember the content is totally up to you, right? No rules about what you should write.
Absolutely. It's your personal space. Total freedom. One really basic practical tip, though. Always date your entries.
Oh, right. Note the date you're writing. And maybe the intended reading date if it's a letter.
Exactly. Crucial for context later. And consistency helps. Daily might be too much for some people starting out, but maybe aim for, say, 2 or 3 entries a month, just to build the habit.
Keep the momentum going. Okay. Now, one piece of advice I found really interesting was this idea of act as if. Can you unpack that a bit?
Yeah, act as if. It means consciously trying to embody the mindset, the energy, the behaviors of that future self right now in the present.
So not just writing about them, but starting to be them.
Exactly. Aligning your current actions and beliefs with the person you're becoming. It can really push you to take action, maybe overcome fear or hesitation because you're stepping into that identity.
That's a powerful shift. So how do you even start doing that?
Well, it helps to first get a really clear understanding of your present situation. Look honestly at where you are now in different parts of your life. Identify what you want to change.
And maybe just focus on one area at a time initially, so it's not overwhelming.
Good idea. Pick career or relationships or health, whatever feels most important right now. And visualization is key here, too.
Really picturing that future self.
Yeah, vividly. What does their daily life look like? Where do they work? What's their home like? Who are they spending time with? Get detailed.
And from that detailed picture, you can start to identify the changes needed to get there. Mindset shifts, actions.
Precisely. Reflect on what needs to shift, both internally and externally. And this is a great place to address limiting beliefs.
Those negative thoughts that hold us back.
Exactly. Use the journal to challenge that negative self-talk. Reframe those beliefs consciously. And remember, embracing discomfort is often part of it.
Discomfort means growth.
Often, yes. It means you're stretching beyond your old patterns. Don't shy away from exploring that discomfort in your writing.
Okay. And if people are still feeling a bit stuck on what to write, the sources gave some great examples of structured prompts, didn't they?
They did. Prompts can be super helpful. Things like, today I am practicing, focusing on one small improvement. Or, I am grateful for.
Simple but effective.
Or, today I am, for a new affirmation. Change in this area allows me to feel, connecting actions to feelings. Today I'm practicing when? Linking a new behavior to a specific situation.
And wasn't there a set of 6 daily prompts from the holistic psychologist?
Yes, Nicole LaPera. Her prompts cover daily affirmation, shifting a pattern, gratitude, envisioning future experiences, identifying opportunities today to be your future self, and connecting with the feeling of becoming that person.
That sounds like a really comprehensive daily practice.
It provides a solid framework.
Yeah.
We also saw some interesting questions from, I think it was a Reddit user's notes.
Oh, yeah. Like
questions like, describe you alone versus you with others. Why the differences? Or, what would you do if you suddenly had total confidence? How would you act? What opportunities would you seize?
Wow, those really make you think differently. Great prompts for deeper reflection.
Definitely. They push you to examine yourself in relation to those future aspirations.
Okay, these prompts are fantastic starting points. Now, to really bring this alive, let's touch on some of the real stories and expert insights we found.
Yeah, absolutely. One really cool personal story was from Sahil Bloom. He wrote a letter to his future self just before graduating college.
And opened it 10 years later.
Exactly. And his big takeaway was fascinating. He said something like, we have the answers, we just haven't asked the right questions yet.
Powerful.
He suggested focusing a future self letter on 4 things. Reflections on the present, your vision for the future, the changes you need to make, and maybe some fun predictions just to keep it light.
I love that idea that the answers are within us, and this practice just helps us unlock them by asking the right questions.
Totally. Then we looked at Nicole LaPera, the holistic psychologist. Her focus is very much on the mind-body connection and taking an active role in your own healing and growth.
And her take on future self-journaling.
She really emphasizes the daily practice aspect, building that consistent momentum.
Yeah.
She believes the habit itself is what creates the big shifts over time.
Consistency is key. Makes sense. And then there was Dr. Benjamin Hardy.
Ah, yes, Dr. Hardy. He's done a lot of research specifically on the future self concept. He talks about this past, present, future identity model.
Okay, what's that about?
It's the idea that time isn't strictly linear in how we experience identity. He argues our present actions actually shape how we see our past.
Interesting.
And crucially, our vision of the future directs our present actions. He stresses how vital that connection to your future self is for finding meaning and resilience now. Very much echoing Viktor Frankl again.
So the future pulls the present forward, in a way.
That's a good way to think about it. Dr. Hardy uses this analogy of sculpting your future self like Play-Doh. We have an active, creative role in shaping who we become.
Like Play-Doh, I like that. It makes it feel malleable, possible.
Exactly. And finally, we found a really touching personal piece from Samantha Ferrer, her letter to my future self.
What stood out there?
She wrote very openly about her hopes for future relationships, trust, loyalty, perseverance, but also about the value of heartbreak, how it helps you grow and learn. It was just a very real, emotionally resonant example of this kind of writing.
Yeah, those personal stories really hit home. They show the human side of it all, the real impact it can have.
Definitely.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's quickly recap the main takeaways.
Sure. So, future self-journaling. It's a really powerful, transformative practice. It helps you envision, plan for, and actually start to embody the person you want to be.
It gives you clarity on goals, boosts positivity, helps you make intentional choices.
Exactly. We've looked at what it is, how it works, both practically and psychologically, the many benefits, tips to get started easily, and heard some inspiring expert views and personal stories.
And hopefully you, listening, are feeling informed and maybe even a little inspired to give it a try. Remember, it doesn't have to be some huge commitment right away.
Yeah, even just a few minutes a week. Experiment with the different methods, try out some prompts, see what resonates with you.
For sure. And maybe we can leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay. Consider this. What if that future you're envisioning? What if they already exist in potential? How can you start today embodying their qualities, making choices that align with their vision for your life? What's one small step you could take?